Namah Shivaya. Acharya ji.
Om Sadashiva Samarambham
Shankaracharya
Shankaracharya Asmadacharya
Madhacharya
Paryantam
Paryantam
Vande Guru
Vande Guru
Paramparam
Paramparam.
Om Sahana
Om
Bhavatu
Sahana
Sahano
Bhavatu
Bhunaktu
Sahana
Sah
Bhunaktu
Veeryam
Veeryam
Karvavahai
Karvavahai
Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahay
Ma
Om
Vidvijavahai.
Shanti
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 Shanti Shanti.
Shanti. Okay, so we'll continue with where we are left off. We have completed the 7th sloka and we are on the 8th sloka, so we will just chant it out. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhaganuvacha
Jnana Vijnana Triptatma
Jnana Tripta
Kutastho Vijatendriyaha
Kutastho
Vijitendriyah
Yukta Ityuchyate Yogi
Yukta
Yukta
Ityuchyate
Ityuchyate
Yogi
Yogi
Samaloshthashmakanchanah
Samaloshthashmakanchanah.
Okay, so let's look at the word breakups. So Jnana, Vijnana, Tripta, Atma, Kuthastha, Vijita, Indriyaha, Sama, Loshtha, Ashma, Kanchanaha, Yogi, Yuktaha, iti Uchyate. Slight rearrangement of the words have been done also. Jnana, Vijnana, Tripta, Atma, Kuthastha, Vijita, Indriyaha, Samalosthashma, Kanchanaha, Yogi, Yuktaha, iti Uchyate. So, Jnana, Vijnana. So here, with the knowledge and its assimilation, Tript Atma, the person whose mind is content, Kutasthaha, who remains unchanged, then Vijita Indriyaha, who has mastered his Indriyas, master of Indriyas, and for that person, Samaha, the following things are the same. What are they? Loshtaha. Loshtaha is a lump of mud or clay. Ashma is a stone. Kanchanaha is gold. So for that yogi, he has samadrishti for Loshta Ashma Kanchanaha. That yogi, Yukta iti Uchyate, is said to be the one who is a yogi. Yogi Yukta iti. Yukta means he is established in yoga. Yukta iti Uchyate. Okay. Now, if you look at the dictionary, Jnana and Vijnana will take the same meaning. But in the Shastram, if either of them appear individually, like Jnana can appear somewhere and Vijnana can appear somewhere, it is possible to give it the same meaning of knowledge, right? But if you are wondering why everything went dark, it is simply because the lights are gone off, okay? Right. So when they appear together, when Jnana, Vijnana appear together, then Vijnana should be taken as Vishesha Jnanam. So that is Aparoksha Jnanam. And Jnanam can be taken as Paroksha Jnanam. Paroksha Jnanam is understanding that this is so and so, understanding that there is Brahman. Aparoksha Jnanam is with Jnanam with no Pratibandha, that is understanding that I am Brahman. So you can take Jnanam as the understanding of the Mahavakyam, that I am the body, I have consciousness. So consciousness is taken as part of the body and I take myself to the physical body. But there is a parijnanam. It is a clear understanding according to Shastric words. What does Shastra say? Tattvamasi. One should be very clear about the meaning of Tattvamasi. It means you are that Lord only. And therefore, Vijnanam is the assimilation of the Mahavakyam as Aham Brahma Asmi. And if I have got a body, that body is a temporary instrument, different from me, instrument of Anubhava. So Shankara says Swa Anubhava, own experience, direct experience. And again, this Anubhava should not be understood as experiencing any object, even though the word itself means experience. Shankara says very carefully, you should understand it as claiming Brahman as yourself. That is the Swa Anubhava, own experience. And therefore, this knowledge of Vijnanam is what? The assimilation of the knowledge, claiming myself as Brahman. And what do I do? What is the net effect upon me when I claim myself as Brahman? The net effect is that till today, I was a Jivatma, and slightly better, I was a sadhaka, a disciple, or following a particular discipline. So I was a sadhaka. But once this knowledge is there, that I am Brahman, this viewpoint changes. I no longer look upon myself as either a Jivatma or even a sadhaka. Why is that so? Because I don't look upon moksha as something which I have to achieve. It is something which I already have since I am Brahman. And this change of identification, this is called Vijnanam in this loka. And only when this shift of identification takes place, then only my sense of Apurnatvam will vanish. Krishna doesn't say that everybody should understand that he is Brahman. If you wish to be associated with the body, mind, sense complex, Thula, Sukshma, Karana, Hariram, if you say you are, Krishna says it's fine. But the body, mind, sense complex has got associated problems. And if you claim yourself as the body, mind, sense complex, you should be ready to face all the limitations that come with the associated body, mind complex, face all the problems that are associated with the body and the mind. Right? Vedanta says, I can help you, but you have to ask. And that is the main teaching of the first and second chapter, where we said that the person has to come and ask for the knowledge. Knowledge should not be given without being asked. And this, once the knowledge is there, then what is there? Jnana, Vijnana, Tripta Atma. So here Atma is what? It is the mind. So again and again I'll say that whenever you take a Sanskrit word, look at the context. Don't take the dictionary meaning, because it's totally confusing. Right? So Jnana, Vijnana, Triptatma. The mind is content with knowledge as well as the assimilated knowledge. And Vijitendriya, because the mind is content, he doesn't need anything outside him for his contentment. And therefore his indriyas can be left to be inactive. So Vijitendriya, the person has mastered all his 14 sense organs. That person alone will become Jnana Vijnana Triptatma. That can be taken as a Atmaha. If you put it, is the definition of the person who has mastered his mind and body senses. So here, the person who is fully satisfied with the wisdom, therefore he doesn't get shaken by any event that happens in his life. He has no regrets about the past. He is not worried about the future, and therefore nothing really shocks him. So that is why Kuthastaha. Kuthastaha is literally an anvil, a blacksmith's anvil. What does speciality of the anvil? You can beat it all you want, but anvil doesn't change shape. And the Kuthastaha here is taken as unshaken by anything which happens in your life. Right? Okay, now we have to be careful about the word Kuthastaha, because when you use the word Kuthastaha, unchangeable, what could be a possible interpretation?
Brahman.
Brahman or Atma. Okay, that is not the interpretation here. Here, because of the context, That's to be taken as the jnani's mind. And such a jnani, yogi yukta iti uchyate. He is the one who is a real yogi as a result of his wisdom. And yogi here means nididhyasaka yogi. Why? Because the whole chapter is about nididhyasana. And what is the state of this yogi? Yogi sama loshta ashma kanchanaha. His mind is always the same. And therefore, these three things are being introduced as examples just for illustrative purposes. It is not that his mind is the same only towards these three things. So, loshtaha, which is a lump of earth, right? Lump of clay, valueless mud. Okay. And ashmaha. Ashmaha is stones or bricks, which are a bit more valuable than a lump of earth because at least I can build a wall or a house with these stones and bricks. And then kanchanaha, gold, valuable. So gold here is a upalakshanam here. It's a generic sense of usage. The usage is in a very generic sense. It represents everything which is very important in your life. And kanchana here can also mean relationships. So towards all these three, valueless things, some value, things with some value, and things with great value, he has the same attitude, right? So one should not interpret it as, I don't see any difference. That word, when you use a sentence, I don't see any difference, it is not that he physically does not see any difference. If your eyes don't see any physical difference between a glass and a plate, then the problem is not jnanam. You don't require jnanam, right? You require a doctor. So it's not that. Essentially, they are saying that he's free from raga and dvesha. It is not that this jnani does not know the value of objects. He knows the value of a ring because he will use it appropriately and put it on his finger. But he does not have either raga or dvesha towards the ring. Why? Because I am already purnaha. Once I am already purnaha, no external object can cause a change in that purnatam. It cannot, that purnatam cannot be increased by any external object. That purnatam cannot be decreased by any external object. And that is why we say, for the jnani, everything in the universe, agate swagatam kuryat. Whatever comes, welcome. He welcomes it. Kachantam nanivarayet. Whatever goes, he does not hold on to it. For him, everything is okay. Something comes is okay, something goes it is okay. And samaha. Okay, now samaha is a very important word. Remember that the purpose of karma yoga is also what? Samatvam only, right?
Samatvam yogochate.
Samatvam yogochate. Karma yoga is also samatvam. But we are talking about a jnani over here. So what is the difference in the samatvam of a jnani and the samatvam of a karma yogi? So in karma yoga, samatvam is a deliberate and controlled state, right? So maybe 95% of the time, samatvam is artificially brought in because of the control exercised on the mind. And maybe there is 5% of the time when this samatvam is spontaneous. It doesn't require effort. And as one progresses in karma yoga and upasana yoga and shravanam and mananam and nididhyasanam, this 5% spontaneous samatvam, the percentage will slowly increase. But remember that even when you are a jnani, when you have completed karma yoga and upasana yoga and they have given you the benefits necessary, then you have come to shravanam and you have come to mananam. Now you have got samshaya rahita jnanam. You have knowledge without any doubts. And you are doing nididhyasanam. Even then, even in nididhyasanam, remember that there is a need to exercise control over the mind because 100% FIR does not exist at all. Never think that you will achieve 100% FIR. Okay, so there is samatvam was discussed. in the earlier verse also, in the earlier sloka also, and in this sloka also. What is the difference between the samatvam discussed in the earlier sloka and in this sloka? You're an advanced Gita class, right? What is the difference?
It was more about the instruments of the mind and the sense organs in the previous shloka.
And
And this is about how we look at situations or challenges.
can you reword all that into a more, specific sentence?
That Jitendriyatma.
Yeah, agreed. But put it into a specific
Jita.
sentence.
Acharya ji,
Shitoshna Sukha Dukheshu, that Tatha Manava Mane.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying put it into a pithy one-line sentence. What is the difference between the two slokas?
Acharya ji, the second one is about the one who has assimilated the knowledge. Is it?
No, that's not it.
Acharya ji, in the previous verse, the Jnani was completely assimilated in Aham Brahmasmi because he knows that he's Purnatvam. But in the second verse, we are actually looking at outside world where the things are gold or mud. It is not different for him because everything is mithya.
Agree, but what is the difference between the two?
One is the first one, 7th verse is talking about the experiences, and the 8th verse is talking about the object. So it's.
See, the point is that one of the best ways of assimilating Gita is to be able to summarize what you've just learned. That is, you all are giving individual points, yes, but you are not able to summarize. The extraction of the summary is extremely important.
Acharya ji, may I try, please?
Please.
So, in the previous shloka, it is talking about the control of the self, the body, mind, the individual per se, in terms of the antakaran, and the next one is about how the response is with regards to the external or the jagat, which is present outside.
Fair enough. So, what I argue in one sentence, in the earlier stage, the non-reaction was to internal objects in the mind. In this stage, like manapamanam, and in this sloka, the lack of reaction is in response to objects outside the mind. Okay. Why I'm trying to get into this exercise is because I've noticed over the past few classes that you all are all understanding the, piece by piece of the sloka, but you're not able to summarize when we ask. That summarization is what actually clarifies your intellect. Okay. That you must, at least if you're not doing class, you must do it separate. When you write your notes, summarize always. Okay. So we look at verse number 9. We will chant.
Om Raviji, I have a question.
Yes, please.
We were talking about samatvam with respect to karma yoga and jnana yoga.
Yeah.
But in these two verses, I don't think that's what we're talking about, right?
No, we're talking about samatvam of a jnani in respect to your internal objects, which are thoughts, or like man, etc., and external objects. Whether you close your eyes or you open your eyes, the important thing is that it is sometimes easy to be having the same view of external objects, but to be dispassionate towards emotions may be slightly more difficult. So he's saying that in both your internal world as well as the external world, the jnani's viewpoint is the same. He is not upset by either. Okay, verse number 9. Suhrin mitrar yudasina
Suhridraryudasena
madhyasthadveshya bandhushu
Madhyasthadveshya bandhushu
Sadushvapi cha papeshu
Sadhushvapi cha papeshu
samabuddhir vishishyate.
sambuddhirvishishyate.
Okay. So remember, it is Sanskrit. You cannot say sambuddhi. You have to be samabuddhi. Okay, now look at the word breakups. Suharan. So that first word has to be broken up very carefully. Suharan, Mitra. There is a Ari which is hidden somewhere. In Mitraru, the Ari is hidden. So Suharan, Mitra, Ari, then Udasina. Okay, don't forget the Ari, which is important. Suharan, Mitra, Ari, Udasina, Madhyaha, Sthaha, Dveshyaha, Bandhushu, Sadhushu, Api, Papeshu, Cha, Sama, Buddhihi, Vishishyate. That is the word breakup. So he's talking about the attitude of the Jnani. Suharan, Mitra. So each one will explain in detail. Suharan, Mitra, Ari, Udasina, Madhyastha Dveshya, Bandhushu, Sadhushu, Papeshu Apicha, Samabuddhi Vishishyate. So in the previous verse, the verse prior to the previous verse, he had said that this Jnani has got samatvam with regards to his mind. Then in the last verse, he had said that this Jnani has also got samatvam with regard to external objects, the Jada Prapancha, the external world also, he has samatvam. And now he says that this Jnani has got this samatvam, this samadarshanam regarding Chetana Prapancha also, regarding other living beings also. So he's covering three areas: his own mind, internal world, the external world, Jada Prapancha. External world is divided into two: Jada Prapancha, that is Chetana Prapancha, and Achetana Prapancha. So internal mind world was taken care of in the verse previous to the last verse. In the last verse, it was the external world, but Jada Prapancha, non-living beings by Sama, Loshta, Ashma, Kanchana. Now he comes to the Chetana part of the external world, living beings also. And while it is, you can have samatvam without too much of a trouble towards the Jada Prapancha, but from the Chetana Prapancha, from other living beings, it's much more difficult to have samatvam because there are expectations there with other living beings. And therefore, it's very easy to develop raga or dvesha, right? Okay, one more clarification here. Samatvam has to be looked at from the viewpoint of the Jnani's mind. Samatvam cannot be there when you are in a Vyavaharika role. I hope that's very clear. You should not, because this is a very common, misconception that a person who's an advanced spiritual person, he will treat everybody the same. And you have so many stories which illustrate that everybody treats everybody the same. But Shastra is very clear that in a Vyavaharika role, samatvam is basically impossible. Why? You cannot treat a sadhu and a thief in the same manner, right? Remember that misplaced ahimsa. There is a thing called misplaced ahimsa. When the situation calls for ahimsa, misplaced ahimsa is also adharma, which is the very central point of all the teaching here as far as the Vyavaharika world is concerned. If your duty demands something, that has to be done. What determines whether samatvam is there or not is not the action. It is not whether Arjuna did not fight the war or fought the war which would determine whether Arjuna had samatvam? What would determine?
Whether he had hatred or
Attitude
emotion.
or
In other words, whether his
reaction.
FIR, to use our famous words,
Hmm.
what is the FIR situation of his mind? That is what would define whether he had samatvam or not. And therefore, in a Vyavaharika role, it is possible to have samatvam at the level of your FIR, right? But that samattvam's external expression cannot be there in your Vyavaharika role. So this is very, very clear about, and that is why Arjuna is being told again and again, please fight. Because your FIR should not be disturbed, but he still has to, the external expression, the duty has to be done. Okay. So he gives a lot of examples about in the human race itself. So towards whom the frame of mind is the same, towards whom FIR will not be disturbed. So Suhrad, first one is Suhrad. What is Suhrad? Suhrad is the person who has the good of everybody else with no preconditions. Okay. Then Shankara comments as the one who does you a favor, upakarta. Shankara says Suhrad is a upakarta, the one who does you a favor. And what is the state of mind? Prati upakaram anapekshya, with no expectation that the favor will be returned. Okay, so this is a very important definition of Suhrad. Pratyupkaram anapekshya upakarta. The one who does you a favor without expecting that there is a return from that favor. In return for you doing the favor, he does not expect anything from you. That person is a Suhrad. A person who helps you with no expectation of return is a very, very tough thing to do, because it can be done only when the act of helping people itself gives you joy. The karma itself is your reward. And therefore, when you don't look for any other reward excepting for, I have helped him, not even for the do-good feeling that you get, but you say, I have helped him, and that is sufficient. In that fact that he has got some sort of relief from whatever situation he is in by my helping him, that is sufficient for me. That is the reward. So that is a Suhrad. And therefore, Shankara says Suhrad is a person who's got a Shobhanam Hridayaha, a beautiful heart he has, a beautiful mind he has. Okay, what is Mitra? Mitra is a good friend, right? So what could be, and he will do good to you. So what could be the difference between Suhrad and Mitra? Both do good.
The
A
unconditional part.
mitra will do good to you and not everybody else, may not do good to everybody else.
Yes. So Mitra and Suhrad both do unconditional good. Okay, they don't expect anything in return. But there is a condition where Mitra does, and that condition is that you should be known to him. You should be a friend. That is why Mitra. Suhrad is a person who will help even a stranger. Mitram will help only a person who is a friend. That is both will help unconditionally. But the one extra condition with the Mitra is that he should know you. You should be a friend. Okay. Then Ari. As I said, we have to break this compound word very carefully. It is Suhrat, Mitra, Ari. Split the Sandhi properly. So Ari is one who does you an harm. One who is an enemy. One who wants to do you harm. So that person also, this person has a no, what they call, change in attitude. FIR is the same for Suhrat, for Mitra, for Ari. Then Udasinaha. So Udasina is different from all these three people. He is indifferent person. He does not do any good to me. He does not do any harm to me. In fact, he does not bother about my existence at all. So this indifference is called Udasinaha, right? So if two people are fighting, it is okay with me. I don't help at all. If two people are in love, it's okay with me. I don't interfere. This is Udasinaha. Different types of people who may be there in our lives. That's what he's talking about. And madhyasthaha. Madhyasthaha, madhyasthaha. The one who tries to bring about stability. Madhya means in between. In between means when people are having problems. So the mediator. When two people are having problems, this madhyasthaha is the mediator. He is interested in the well-being of both the people. He is a counselor. And therefore, it is not that he wants one of them to win. He wants it to be a win-win situation. Such a person is a madhyasthaha. He comes and interferes and tries to bring about peace when two people or two parties are fighting. If you are interested in the well-being of only one person, remember, you are not madhyasthaha, you are a pakshapati. You have taken a side. But the madhyasthaha has not taken a side. And dveshaha. So dveshaha, Shankara defines as atmanaha apriyaha. The person whose behavior is such that that dvesha is automatically generated in my mind. And the one who is not desirable for me, atmanaha apriyaha, the one who is not desirable for me, is a dveshaha. Bandhuhu, the next one, is a relative, right? A sambandhi. The one who is related to me through my family is called bandhu. It can be either your direct relatives or the relatives from your spouse's side. So bandhuhu. And the definition of bandhuhu is badhyate iti bandhuhu. The one who is bound through somebody else. The one whose connection to you comes through somebody else. He is bandhuhu. Then sadhuhu is the next one. So sadhuhu, Shankara defines as Shastra Anusari. Shastra Anusari, the person who follows dharma, the person who lives a life of values according to the dharma. Right? And therefore, in this whole situation, remember that Krishna is not talking about not responding to situations, not talking about doing no actions, but no reactions. Let all actions be considered once. So in the Sama Bheda Danda story, even Danda is fine. But Danda should be a well thought out strategy after having considered pros and cons. An impulsive Danda as a reaction, Krishna doesn't approve of. And so in our lives, let us say that I want to scold somebody. You shouldn't want to, but let us say I want to scold somebody. So don't react to a provocation from that somebody and scold him or shout at him, right? Whatever he says, don't react. Take a couple of days off, take 34 days off, think about it, try to understand why it's bothering you, and then choose the words that you're going to say very carefully and then address it. You don't have to shout. You can be just as effective in scolding without losing your temper, right? The last one is papeshu. Papeshu is the one who leads the life of adharma. Adharmika purushaha. What is the jnani's attitude towards all of them? This is what is mentioned over here. You can stay away from them physically, right? So jnanis, we are not saying here, Krishna is not saying here that you should go and embrace them. That you should physically, it is possible for you to stay away. Why? Because Taittiriya says, Kushalan na pramadittavyam. Do not neglect your own kushala, your welfare. So if somebody is being insulting, there is no need to go and stand in front of him and get insulted. That is not what is being talked about. You can avoid him. But even if avoiding a person is an option, mentally you should not reject. And that is why FIR should not be there. Mental rejection is FIR only. And therefore Krishna is saying that FIR should not be there. Never, never curse anybody. This is the first level of my spiritual progress. And therefore, samabuddhi. This jnani has got samabuddhi. And second level is what? First level is do not ever curse anybody. Do not reject anybody mentally. Second level is even if somebody's behavior is atrocious, second level is you should pray for his welfare. This is the second level of your progress. So again, if you look at this word samatvam, very important word. In fact, throughout the Gita, you will find this. The samabuddhi, we can actually analyze in two ways. One is from the philosophical angle. Samabuddhi can come about when you are a jnani. How? Because jnani understands that the true nature of everybody is Atma Swarupam only. Any differences in character, even the most detestable character traits, they don't belong to the Atma. They belong only to Anatma. Everybody's Atma Swarupam is innately beautiful only. Sat, Chit and Ananda. Therefore, innately, if you are able to love yourself as Atma, you are also saying that I love everybody because there is only one Atma. And if I love myself as Atma, then I am saying that I love everybody in their inner sense. In their Atma Swarupam, everybody is lovable. But yes, Anatma can have, differences. Anatma can have impurities. And if there is an incidental impurity, it can be removed. In Vivek Chudamani, for example, Shankaracharya gives the example of sandalwood. So sandalwood is by nature very sweet smelling. But when that same sandalwood is kept wet and unused for some time, what happens? A coating of fungus builds up. It's very, very foul smelling. Because of that foul smelling fungus, which is a superficial coating, you don't throw away the sandalwood. What do? You just clean it up. And therefore, all jivas have this superficial coating, this foul smelling fungus every jiva has. What is this fungus? Ajnanam and adhyasa. So raga, dvesha, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, madaha, matsarya. All this is a product of ajnanam. All this is adhyasa only. Remember, it is not the original product. It is only adhyasa. And this jnani has recognized this fact that under the superficial coating of fungus lies the Atma. And therefore his philosophy is simple. Nothing in this creation deserves hatred. Wrong behavior, impurities, they may require corrective treatment, but they don't require hatred. If you have some pus in your hand or your leg, what is the treatment? Hatred of the pus is not what you want. You want medical treatment, which is corrective treatment. And therefore, Jnani says there is only love and compassion. Adveshta sarvabhutanam. He has got no dvesha towards any living being. And therefore, this Jnani has only love and compassion. His whole life, his FIR is very, very stable. He has a life without complaints. He does not criticize. He is not cynical. Why? Samabuddhi. Atma is the same in everybody. This is the philosophical angle. Okay, this is the angle from philosophy. And since I've said that, I've also got to say over here that Shankara in his commentary differs completely. He says samatvam is freedom from raga and dvesha. What did we say? Samatvam is freedom from raga and dvesha because of the fact that you know that you are Atma. But here, Shankara says samatvam is freedom from raga and dvesha because both attachment and hatred are forms of dependence alone. What does that mean? That I depend on something, on the presence of something in my life for my happiness, because I have got this erroneous thinking that this person is very, very necessary for me to be happy. So that dependence is there on the presence of another person or another object or event in your life for your own happiness. It is mistaken. The dependence is there. And therefore, attachment is nothing, raga is nothing but wanting the presence of an object in your life. And similarly, you can understand dvesha is just another form of that. Your dependence is not upon the presence of an object to make you happy. Your dependence is upon the absence of that object in your life to make you happy. And here Shankara says, Jnani samaha, because he does not have either attachment or hatred. That means he does not mind the presence of things also. He does not mind the absence of things also. One of the indicators of spiritual progress is what? Absence of preoccupation with the five atmas. We have talked about this before. Anatma is pancha anatma. What are they? Body, mind, then your possessions, then your profession, and then your family, right? So all this can be divided. Body, mind is ahankara. Possession, profession, family is mamakara. So either you can say panchatma or you can say mamakara, ahankara. The indicators of a spiritual progress is the decline of preoccupation with this ahankara, mamakara, with body, mind, possession, profession, family, etc. So, what does it mean? That when I have obsession with profession, family, possession, I need to control them. And therefore, that is not what is being talked about here. You have to learn, as you decrease your obsession with these three, you will learn to give more and more freedom to others. And Swamiji says very nicely, your freedom, the freedom which you have, is in direct proportion to the amount of freedom you give to others. A very beautiful statement. The freedom which I have is in direct proportion to the freedom which I give to others. What does this mean?
The more freedom you give, the more you get.
Because you are free not to control anybody. You don't want to control anybody, so you are really free. You don't have any wish to control anybody or be affected. Controlling is really by being affected. So that because you get affected, so you want to control their behavior. You want to change their behavior.
Can you reword that? Anybody?
Control comes directly with attachment. Because if I love somebody, I don't need to control them. I'll accept the way it is. And the more I control, the more attached I am. Hence,
that is not what is being meant here. When you say that I am giving freedom to others, the reason is because I want to be free. So what does it mean?
Yeah.
Letting go.
Which means what? In terms of the mind.
Purnatvam.
Purnatvam.
Complete.
Oh, Acharya, may I try?
Yes.
So, freedom which I have means that as long as I have limited raga dvesha, I'm not affected by what the other person is doing. So that my freedom is in direct proportion because I allow the others to be and behave in whatever manner they are, yet I am not affected by it.
So what does it mean in terms of your mind? Let me give you an example. How much do you think about the garbage which you throw out in the morning?
Nothing. And it is not affected.
So
It's a waste.
Affecting or not, garbage does not occupy my mind. When you give freedom to others, what you're actually doing is you are saying that since I have let them be whatever they want to be, they don't occupy my mind at all.
And not letting the birds make a nest on in your mind.
And my mind is at peace. It doesn't get disturbed.
It doesn't have the occupation of that particular entity. If you say that my wife should behave in this manner only, And then the whole time you are bothered about whether your wife is behaving that manner or not. So your wife is occupying your mind all the time. But if you say it's okay, she is her own person, let her do what she wants, it's okay, I am not going to interfere. What happens? Your mind can be free for other things. She is not occupying your mind because you don't want to control her. So it's called a non-chattering mind. A mind doesn't chatter all the time. So Shankara uses the term avyaprita buddhi. Vyaprita means,
Raviji,
yes.
can I ask one question? Just a doubt.
Yeah.
Sometime when we are allowing, especially my husband, he allows my daughter to do anything. Even I do, but sometimes when I see him giving too much freedom, I feel that it is a carelessness. There is no, uh, you know, uh, control. Sometime in guiding. So how do we distinguish that?
Okay. Anybody wants to answer that question?
The way you are thinking that person is indifferent, you are actually being controlled already, because your mind is thinking, why is he so indifferent, or why doesn't he act differently, why doesn't he act like this? So you're wanting him to act the way you want.
Acharya.
You're
So
controlling.
the samatvam here, with respect to the vyavharik world, you said has to be different. So if certain actions have to be taken, they have to be taken.
Okay.
And therefore, one has to engage the mind in the action which is required. So at that point of time, but yet the internal balance should not be disturbed.
Ambarish, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think that is because the person who appears to be given freedom is also equally kind of emancipated or enlightened to behave responsibly. So that it doesn't occupy your mind. Because one who is giving freedom knows that that is okay.
Yeah, that's a good
Can
answer.
I say something?
Yeah.
Raviji, can I say something?
Go ahead.
There are two words, freedom and liberty. Freedom is always controlled, and liberty is let them do whatever they want. So I think freedom should always be a little bit controlled.
Well,
Raviji, can I say?
yeah, please, Deepaji, boliye.
हम लोग हमेशा ये श्लोक पढ़ते हैं, पूर्णमदम पूर्णमिदम पूर्णस्य पूर्णमदस्य पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमादाय. तो it means हम भी पूर्ण है, वो भी पूर्ण है. When everybody is from Brahman, if we feel that we are Brahman, so we'll see Brahman in others also. So what is the point of correcting somebody or telling somebody or trying to hold that person or trying to change that person? जब सभी पूर्ण है तो फिर क्या करना है?
I think sometimes guidance is required because they don't know about the external world. Children, I'm talking about children.
Strategy for a parent, bringing up a child is responsibility in Vyavaharika. So while we have to guide the child, what we say, the way we say it, we have to practice samatvam with the understanding that guiding and bringing up the child is our responsibility.
Well, fair enough. So I think basically the answer to your question, her question, is that where there is a clear responsibility, then you cannot say that that person is, whatever it does is okay with me. Okay, now clear responsibility is not in terms of is in terms of a person who is not an adult here. Okay, I won't say even if
Actually, my daughter is 30 years.
then I think you are free of responsibility. And if I scold my daughter, she will tell me one very simple thing: "Pops, please cool it."
Okay.
So that question not very well. Anyway, let me come back to.
No, actually, this did happen during her growing age. So I was really confused with this. So when you said this, I just wanted to clarify.
So let's come back. We are talking about the chattering mind, and there's is something called Vyaprata. Vyaprata in Sanskrit means very, very active. And so Shankara says this Jnani, he has a Avyaprata Buddhihi, a non-chattering mind, and therefore Vishishyate. Among all the Jnanis, such a Jnani is the best. He is superior. He becomes Jnananishtha. Now remember, all these verses, what were we discussing? Bahiranga sadhana or Antaranga sadhana?
Antaranga.
Bahiranga sadhana.
What is the difference between Bahiranga and Antaranga?
Towards your external world.
No,
No,
not
no,
at
no.
all. Not at all.
Discipline. Your
This internal
discipline.
discipline. Internal
Your
discipline.
discipline.
Anybody who has the correct answer? What is the difference between Bahiranga sadhana and Antaranga sadhana? We're talking about in reference to Dhyanam, meditation.
Something which is your internally you're assimilated, and Bahirang when you have to make an effort.
Nope. We had done long discussion on this in the initial stages.
Can I try, Raviji?
Please, Shweta.
I relate it to cervical samadhi and nirvikal samadhi. If we talk about
No.
okay,
Nothing
so
to do with
wrong.
that. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes, Manmohan?
External discipline, all these things are Bahiranga sadhana.
No, but what is the difference? When do you use Bahiranga and when do you use Antaranga?
Om Acharya ji. For the general disciplines, we use the word Bahiranga.
Yeah.
And for the specific disciplines to be observed, we use Antaranga.
Good enough. So basically, Bahiranga sadhana is all the sadhanas you follow in your life, as a meditator, but not necessarily while doing meditation. Antaranga sadhana is discipline to be entered into immediately before Dhyanam. What are the immediate steps you take before Dhyanam, before sitting in Dhyanam? That is Antaranga sadhana. Bahiranga sadhana is general discipline, the way of life that you lead. Okay, with this I'll stop for the day. Any questions?
Acharya ji, you talked about two levels of some buddhi, two levels of buddhi. Some buddhi, first level of attitude and second level not. So I didn't get that.
Anybody wants to explain that?
Can the question be repeated?
Can you please repeat the question?
So you said when you use the word sambuddhi, then that is the first level of attitude, and then second level of buddhi will be what? When you...
It's not level. I said there are two different explanations, two ways you can look at it.
It's okay, maybe I didn't get that. So
one was the philosophical angle from the Jnani's angle, which means that everybody is Atma Swarupam only. And one was a different angle, a non-chattering mind, which means I give freedom to others. I don't let Raga Dvesha affect my mind. That is completely different angle, but that is the angle which is required for a meditator. But if you are a Jnani, anyway, you don't need all this. Okay, but a Jnani is basically outside the discussion of any scripture. Because he doesn't need the scripture, he is not bound by the scripture. Okay, so with this,
what are attitudes?
It's not attitude, it is a buddhi basically. It is the explanation given. I'm not talking about attitudes at all. It's the explanation given for samabuddhi.
Acharya ji, so the last two shlokas were in concern to the Bahiranga sadhana, right?
Yeah. Now next sloka onwards will be Antaranga sadhana, which we will do in the next class.
Thank you, Acharya.
So this is why I'm saying, that I don't know how many of you all are sitting down and making the notes. Believe me, if you don't make the notes, and between two Sundays, you have to make notes. Otherwise, you'll find by the time you reach the 18th chapter, all the 17 chapters have been forgotten.
Okay.
So please do make the notes. Otherwise, you're wasting your time basically coming and sitting. Because the human intellect, as it is, it's difficult as you grow older to remember things. And therefore, it is very, very important to make notes. You have to do it. So let's stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you, love. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Acharya.
Okay.